It's a love song. My name's Matt Pryor. I'm from Kansas City. I'm a musician, a songwriter, and apparently now an author. And I've been playing in a band called the Get Up Kids since 1995 and done a lot of other solo work and other projects. The New Amsterdams and solo stuff, the Terrible Twos. I write lots of songs. The world through windshield is callous and cheap. So I read a lot of books, and I happen to be like reading some memoirs of musicians, and I was just like, I wonder, I mean, I've got basically I was like, I've got stories because I have this weird job, and I'm also diabetic, so I thought that was an interesting angle as far as like, you know, traveling the world with a backpack full of syringes. And so I just decided to see if I could do it. And so I sat down and did it. And I don't know if it's any good, but I got it done. So turn out the light. I'll stay if you want me to. Basically, it was sort of like thinking of it in the sense of like a story arc, as far as like someone who only ever wanted to go on tour and then worked really hard, went on tour, and then had to figure out the rest of life after the fact, once the like tour had already happened and I had already gone everywhere that I wanted to go. And then to sort of like, what do I do now? I just wanted to see if I could do it. And so I was kind of writing it for myself. And I always kind of operated under this principle that if I like what I make, then if you like what I like, you'll like what I make. And so I liked what I wrote, and so I figured that somebody else might enjoy it as well. It's a long ways away, but you're never alone. Just look at the sky over our home. I just kind of went into it with this sort of attitude of like, I'll just assume that nobody cares, but that I wanted to write a book. And if anybody does, then cool. But you know, it was a lot of work, so it's you can say nobody cares what you have to say, but I mean, I cared enough about it to write it down and take the time to do it. But yeah, just I mean, especially now that like things are starting to happen with it and reviews and things like that, and I just get this very weird kind of imposter syndrome because it's my first time doing it, you know. I know I can make records. I don't know if I can make a book. I mean, I now know I can make a book. I don't know if I can make a good book. Hopefully it is. I've learned how to be more comfortable with myself and to acknowledge when those sort of things come up, like the imposter syndrome thing, of just sort of being like, okay, this is happening. What does that mean? Where does it come from? Because it's not logical. I know it's not logical, but I still feel it anyway, because you know, your brain's not logical, although your heart's not logical. And so I felt like I knew myself so well. And then for a long time, I feel like I was trying to figure it out. And now it's just, I think part of the figuring it out is that I'm constantly learning more about myself. You know, I don't know if that's like a getting older, if it's a middle-aged thing or not. And I was lost till I found you. I think if you've ever met me before, you'll hear my voice when you read the book. It won't feel like someone else. It'll just be like, oh, this is an extension of me telling a story. So how I identify as has evolved, and I've settled on songwriter because it was always just like I'm in a band. And that was the full extent of it. And then I was really uncomfortable when anybody would call me an artist for a long time. I finally kind of worked my way into that one. It pisses me off when people will casually say like, oh, he's the rock star. And I'm like, no, I'm just a songwriter. I like saying songwriter. And then I can now shorten that down to just writer, and which I think is what I always kind of pictured that I was anyway. Turn out the light. I'll stay if you want me to.